Yo, what is going on, guys? This is Loki, and in this video we'll be talking about the two new and improved builds and one additional fun build. So it'll be the pen build, the crit build, and of course the new split pushing build. Alright, hello guys. We'll be talking about the pen build now, and we're going to talk about the old one first, and then I'm going to start transitioning to the new one and explain to you why we're doing the new pen build over the old pen build. So I've enlarged my UI again for those phone users who struggle reading the numbers. And so this is the old pen build. So you would go Boots, Trance, Hydras, Heartseeker, Erendite, Tinesbane or Bloodforge, and then Tinesbane and Bloodforge. Depends on if the enemy team is starting to build defense around 5th, 6th item. Okay, so this would eventually give you 30% ignored pen and oh, that's right. Heartseeker changed, so you don't get flat pen anymore. Whoops. But pen you would get like 15 flat pen. So this was the pen build, and that was the best pen build for Loki, dealing the most amount of damage to a squishy and whatnot. Now we're going to be changing one item, and only one item specifically. Can you guys guess? The item that it will be changing is Erendite. So let's talk about Erendite. The reason why I want to change the Erendite is because, first off, see how it says 30 out of 40 in this penetration stat? I want to get that to 40 out of 40. Erendite does not provide this. And the passive of Erendite is kind of useless. So let me explain to you why I think passive of Erendite is extremely irrelevant. So let's say, let me upgrade my abilities here. Let's say this Neath, right? So, oh no, she's gonna die from that. Okay, I did it too much damage. Okay, so let's say, you know, this Neath, right? She's very low. I'm gonna ult her. My Erendite. How can you proc Erendite if your ult kills the target? That's basically what I'm saying here. Erendite's passive is useless because your ultimate will basically kill the enemy before you get to proc the Erendite passive. The only way you can proc Erendite passive to that person you're trying to kill is if you ult them first. But that's never a good idea as Loki. If you are a Loki player, you would understand that ulting in is typically a bad idea, and you don't want to do that. It puts you in a vulnerable state. So you always use your ult to execute people, not to deal damage, and therefore Erendite's passive is kind of useless. You can argue for the movement speed as much as you want. I don't find it valuable. And extra damage on other people, again, I don't find that valuable. You're going pen, so your cooldowns will always be like 4+ seconds on your vanish, so it's not going to be, or 5+ seconds on your vanish, so it's not going to be really that relevant for you to consciously attack people. With crit build it is, because crit build allows you to constantly attack people, but we're not building Erendite in crit build. So we're going to replace Erendite to fulfill the role of 40% penetration, will give us more damage. The item is going to be Soul Eater. This will prick them real good. So I know a lot of people have been thinking, oh, whoa, Soul Eater, that's new. So ignore the passive for now. Let's look at the base stat. So you lose 35 power, which is fine. Penetration again is stronger than power in most situations, especially against objectives and tanks. You get you get the penetration and you get the cooldown. So you're not losing. So you have 40 out of 40 cooldown, as right here. 40% cooldown, 40% penetration. It maximizes the pen for objective pressure and as well as killing. This build is perfect for killing people and also doing objectives. When I mean by objectives, I'm referring to towers and phoenixes. One more note. Backdooring is now back with Loki. Back then, the only % ignore pen you had was Tinesbane, and Tinesbane only applied to gods in the past 2 years. So 2-3 years. So now this allows us to again backdoor phoenixes, and I'll show you with the new split pushing build and how strong that is. So yeah, you'll be replacing Soul Eater now. But however, the build order for the pen build. So again, assume this is all solo lane. It's easier to explain it because solo lane has a better pathing to. So we're gonna go Boots. Now this is the normal starting for solo lane, and then but instead of getting Hydra's third item, you would get Soul Eater. You want to stack as fast as possible. Dragon Story. I gave Dragon Story this build, and he really likes it, so that's pretty cool. Again, I'm all about creating better builds about Loki. I'm not trying to BS anyone. I'm trying to make Loki as best as he possibly can be. And you definitely don't want Hydra's third item because you want to upgrade. You want to get your stacks as done as possible, as fast as possible. For the passive. Now, the passive of Soul Eater is 20% healing from your abilities, which is good for pen build because you're going for maximum damaging a bit for your abilities. So if you were to, like, so Erendite, right? If you ult someone, they'll be dead, which prevents you from proccing the Erendite passive. Soul Eater will still proc. So if you ult a Neith who has 400 health and you do like 600 health, you'll be healing for 200 or whatever the math for that is. You'll be healing for a lot of, which is good. So in other words, Soul Eater actually works on your damage even if you kill them with your damage, whereas Erendite doesn't. If I hope that makes sense. And after that, you want to go into Hydras, and this is just a normal route. Next, if you know how to play the game for Loki, you get Heartseeker. Obviously, Heartseeker got reduced. It only costs 2,900 gold. It's cheaper. And of course, you can build Tinesbane or Bloodforge depending on the situation. So if no one's building defense, you can get actually no, get Tinesbane anyways. My bad, I forgot. Tinesbane got changed, so you want to actually get this as early as possible, which is going to be this slot right here, because now you can get. Let's talk about Tinesbane. You get 40 power, which is 10 more power than the old one. You get a universal stat. Right, there's a difference between passive and universal stat. Universal stat means that's the stat you will get regardless of the situation. There is no if command. However, the passive is an if statement. Your passive, your first ability cast gains 20% penetration, right? But this only applies to abilities, right? So in other words, this does not work on objectives. It does not work on towers and phoenixes. The passive of Tinesbane works on everything in the game except for towers and phoenixes, which is something important to note. Another thing to note is that you can actually overcap penetration. So while it's true that you can only get 40%, Tinesbane allows you to get 60%. You can only get 40% universal penetration. So stats. The stats is the plus signs. Anything that says plus 20, plus 40, plus 30, plus 20%, plus 15, these are universal stats. These are stats that apply to like your stats. The passive does not apply to your stats. It just applies. That's all it does. So the passive ignores the stats, which is why you can overcap. So in other words, your bleed or your assassinate. If you assassinate in first, again, I don't recommend doing that, but if you do that, your assassinate will ignore 60% of the person's armor, which is incredibly strong. Loki is now stronger than he was for a very long time, except for Nemean Line. That's still a problem, but let's ignore that for now. So yeah, so you actually do want to get this. You will now deal 40% to everyone. You'll deal 40% to mages, to assassins, to tanks, to towers, to everything, and it's so strong. Why? Because old Tinesbane scaled from 15 to 40% pen, meaning you would ignore 15% of a squishy's armor and ignore 40% of a tank's armor. Now you ignore 40% of a tank's armor and squishies all time. It's extremely strong. Alright, hope I explained the penetration situation. And then you would get Bloodforge last. So this is officially the new pen build for Loki. I really recommend it. It's very good. And again, this is all in the solo lane's perspective. I think Loki solo is now stronger than he ever was, because warriors now do not build Gladiator Shield, which means they don't have as much sustain. Warriors typically build Soul Eater now, or at least like some Wukong, maybe Achilles and Arthur does, but that's fine. They still have the healing from the evolved Soul Eater, but guess what they don't have? Protections. So in other words, Gladiator Shield gives you healing and protections. This one, if Arthur builds evolved Soul Eater, yes, he can heal, but not as much as Gladiator Shield. And also keep a note that he's now squishy. He's killable now. The only thing he has that's tanky is probably Warrior's Blessing, which gives you like 25 protections or something like that, which is fine. But it allows you, just keep that in mind. You can now kill Soul Laners if you're smart about it. They're not squishies, but they're easier to kill. That's all I have to say. So Loki solo is now strong, is very strong. So any soul laners, including Dragon Story, will of course rejoice, unless you realize Nemean Line counters hold existence. Okay, so let's talk about crit now. Alright, so this is the old crit build for Loki. We'll be changing one item and one item only, and guess what that will be? with Rage? No. Is it gonna be Hydra's? No. It's gonna be Titan's Bane. We are replacing Titan's Bane with this new item called Shredded Edge, and I'll explain why. It's not. It is because of the passive, but it's not because of the passive, if that makes sense. You're only utilizing the passive once, and that one time is good enough. But let's get further into it. So, let's talk about Titan's Bane again. Titan's Bane gives you 20% universal penetration, physical ignore penetration, and then 40 power. The passive, however, is useless on Loki crit. Why? Because this only applies to abilities. You only get 20% ability for what's it called? For your abilities. You don't actually get it for your auto attacks. That's a problem. So that's useless. Crit Loki is an auto attack. This build is a hyper carry build, meaning that this is the build that you use to kill every single person on the enemy team and then win the game. You don't split push, you don't do objectives, you don't do anything like that. You just kill the enemy and then win the game. That is the purpose of the crit build. Crit build right now is again, crit Loki is better than pen Loki. You deal more damage to squishies and tanks, even with all that penetration. It's kind of stupid, but crit doubles your damage. Like, that's what crit does. It gives you 100% extra damage on all your auto attacks with Deathbringer additional 30%. So you get 130% additional damage with all your auto attacks. It's very strong. And then Loki's passive applied to it, which makes it even more nuts. But bottom line is, this is the crit build. Titan's Bane passive does not work on crit. It works on your ability. You don't care. You're not killing. You are not killing the enemy with your bleed. You are killing the enemy with your auto attacks. So let me demonstrate this again. You are just 3-shotting them. You're just killing them with your auto attacks. You're not killing them with your bleed. Pen build, you are killing with your bleed. And if you've noticed, actually, if you've noticed that one of my auto attacks did more damage than the other, it's the last one. Pay attention. 659. My face blocked the way, but I did 597 2 times, right? 597, 597, and then my last auto attack did 659 because of Serrated Edge. That deals more damage than if you were to have Titan's Bane. Just letting you guys know that. Only by like 20 or something like that. So, but hey, that's more damage. That's more damage on auto attacks, and that's better. And Serrated Edge gives you 20% penetration, so you're not losing penetration if you get, over Titan's Bane. Titan's Bane only gives your bleed or your execution or your assassinate 20% extra pen, which is not relevant for this situation. But also, notice that Serrated Edge gives you 10% movement speed. Someone told me yesterday that they asked me, and this is what I love about, people. They ask questions in a respectful way, and they say, what about Heartseeker? So, I've not tested this, so let me test this right now. I believe Heartseeker, according to him or her, the Heartseeker can 2-shot. If you, let's try that. Yeah. You can 2-shot with Heartseeker. Now, you can go, you definitely can go this if you would like. This is a more squishy-oriented kill, which is fine. You lose 10% penetration, but you gain more damage. If I were to get Serrated Edge, I'm actually curious. Can I actually 2-shot with Serrated Edge? So let's see here. I don't think so. I think I could, actually, but because Neath can heal, maybe if I do this. I didn't crit there.
They drop like dead leaves.
All right, hold on. Let me see if this works here. Yes, it would kill. She's just healing. I would have killed. So Loki with this build can also 2-shot squishies, but Heartseeker can do it faster. So you can definitely get Heartseeker if you would like. I'm not saying you can't. I'm just telling you that Serrated Edge gives you something that Heartseeker doesn't. Movement speed. So I don't know, anyone who played Loki back in the Rangda's Mask era, like the old Rangda's Mask, would understand why movement speed is so good on Loki. It allows you to travel further in your invisibility, and it just gives you more base, like you just walk faster. And I think that's very strong. You get 475 movement speed with a Serrated Edge, whereas if you were to get Heartseeker, right, you would only have 443. So I value the 10% movement speed. more than two-shotting squishies, because I don't do that. I don't just use 2 auto attacks. I use 3. So I just do this. Right? I just do that. I don't use 2 auto attacks, run away, and expect my bleed or my Heartseeker proc to kill them. Because that's not fast enough, in my opinion. I want to kill them with manual control, not automatic. I don't want to rely on my bleed or anything like that, because what if they get healed? What if something happens? So I think, in my opinion, Shredded Edge here is better for Loki than Heartseeker. But again, if you just if you don't care what I say, then go for it. But I strongly recommend Shredded Edge. Obviously, Shredded Edge is probably gonna get nerfed here. Not because it's strong. Shredded Edge is actually a pretty bad item. It's only good on one character, Arachne. But the fact is that the stats are still really good. The passive is kind of useless on like 99% of 90% of characters. Characters like Bakasura can't even use this because they have to jump and eat and then use Butcher Blades before attacking, and that's hard. Kali has to jump aggressively, which is not smart. Who else does this? And any like characters like Dodgy, who uses their abilities, again, they're ability based, not auto based, so Shredded Edge wouldn't work on them. Shredded Edge is an auto attacking item only, and it only works on Arachne, based on what I've seen. Unless you can tell me another god that works on, fine, but I can't think of any. This is an Arachne only item, so what I think is that either gonna probably buff this item, make it stronger, so other gods will pick it up, or they'll nerf the base stats. Because this thing, look how much it gives you: 30 power, lifesteal, penetration, and movement speed. That in one item. That's really strong. But anyway, that's the crit build. So I'm digressing too much. I know this video is kind of getting too long, but what can you do about it? Okay, so now we're going to be talking about the new build for Loki. This build is less competitive and more for casual. It works. There's nothing wrong with the build, but you can't just split push the entire game. So this build can still kill people, but it definitely is not as strong as the pen build or the crit build. So if I were, I haven't built it yet, but so in order, you would go Boots, Trance, Hydras, then you would get Shredded Edge immediately into Crusher, and then you would go into Gladiator Shield. No, Berserker. I keep mixing those two. Berserker Shield, and then you would go into Heartseeker. This is all for maximizing the penetration, right? Gladiator Shield is so when you do objectives, you will get 20 power and 20% attack speed. This item is a little broken, by the way. This item, let me explain to you, right? This item gives you 60 power, 30 protections, 40% attack speed, and 10 penetration. If you're below 40% health, at least. If you're above 40% health, you just get these base stats, but that's still very strong. Excuse me, very, very strong. Perfect for split pushing. Crusher, obviously the attack speed and flat pen for split pushing. Shredded Edge, the passive, it's great for split pushing. And of course the base stats. Heartseeker, the passive is useless here, but it gives you 10% power and a lot, or 10% penetration and a lot of power. I'm going to talk to you, do I need to stack anything? No, I don't. I'm going to show you guys the way to, this is again, split pushing build only. This only works in solo lane. You would want to get teleport first active. Right? Always get teleport for this build. Don't get teleport on any other build. Like, teleport is not necessary in Loki. Just stealth to the tower. The most you'll probably lose is like 1 to 3 minions. Okay, so, and afterwards you want to get Belt of Frenzy. Now you may be thinking to yourself, but why not beads, right? The thing is, you're not fighting. This build is for split pushing only, meaning you only need beads and ages if you're near enemies. You're not going to be near gods. You're going to be split pushing only. This is a hardcore scumbaggery thing to do. So allow me to demonstrate how strong this build is. So this is a late game build. Like, let's say it's 30 to 40 minutes in, and let's say like there's still a Phoenix up, right? If you can backdoor with Loki now and still live. So I will show you right now how strong this build is when it comes to backdooring. In fact, before I do, let me show you a clip in real time. This should be a Phoenix. Oh my god! Jesus Christ! I should back. No, I don't. Soul's dead. Can I do it?
An ally has been slain. Double kill.
Attack the Titan.
Triple kill.
Merlin did it!
Whirlwind. 4 bodies in
Now, of course, that clip had minions in it, so of course, because of minions, I dealt more damage. But I'm about to show you that you don't need minions to take down phoenixes.
Are you insane? I'm just getting started. Not so fast. My duty never fails.
As you can see, I just 100 and zeroed a 3,000 health phoenix with 125 protections. Yeah, that's how much protections phoenixes have. They have all towers and phoenixes have 125 protections. You have 40% penetration, which means you ignore, I think, like 50, almost half of. Actually, no, you do ignore half. Why? Because you get Crusher. That's 65. So you ignore almost, or basically half of the Phoenix's protections. That is huge. So, and of course, like, why would I get teleport? Is so you can teleport to wards. So this is a perfect backdooring build for Loki.
I have many who wish me
Loki
dead.
can now backdoor in mid-season patch. Before he couldn't, because the only penetration item that would work really well on Phoenixes, besides Flat Pen, was Time's Bane. But Time's Bane only applied to gods. So Loki can split push and backdoor much better than he could in season 1. And season 1 was his prime for split pushing. So again, try this build out in casuals. I don't recommend it on ranked because you can't just split push your way to victory every game. You have to fight, you have to do something, because if your team dies, you can be split pushing all you want, but you will still, who will win? One Loki or 4 or 5 enemies killing your time. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This video is long. I know that, which is why I posted the 3 builds in the very beginning, just for people just want to get right to it. But for those who are curious to why I build like this, well, there you go. So if you have any comments, questions, concerns, please post it down below. I will read them and I'll reply to them. And if you're going to ask me a question like why not build Shifter Shield, whatever, right? Don't say why not just build Shifter Shield. Tell me why you think Shifter Shield is good on Loki, and then we can have a discussion about that. All right? So if you have any comments, please post them down below, and I'm gonna see you guys all Loki and non-Loki players next time.